And the topic for today is PDF 2.0, a new ISO standard, new for the first time since PDF has been invented more than 20 years ago. There is the version number does not start with a 1 but with a 2. So, and you should now see the slides, or maybe actually only the first one of the series of slides that I want to use during this presentation. So let's move on. First, a few words about color software. So, and this is just a small map so that you know where we are. And actually we are there right now, right in the center of Berlin, pretty close to the main landmark here, the Fernsehturm. In our offices, Colors has been founded more than 20 years ago, 1995. And since 1997, that was around PDF 1.3, we are doing PDF technology. And me, Dietrich von Seggern, I joined Colors in 2002, so I'm also here now for 15 years. A few more words about us. So what actually are we doing? We have product families related to PDF. So PDF is the only thing that we do. There is a product family for archival and PDF Pilot, and there is PDF Toolbox for prepress and print, and PDF Chip for PDF creation. And I think the second part here is pretty much everything that we do has to do with automation. So we have several solutions for automating PDF work and tasks, like automating on a hot folder basis, on command line as a web service or as a library, and we as well have desktop solutions for interactive use. And then we are in Berlin and we are in Germany, but we are also in the world. So how does color software relate to the Earth? So we are very active at ISO, and that's maybe the reason why we are sitting here and talking about PDF 2.0. So we are very active there at PDF standardization. We also have a worldwide sales channel that is organized by our distributor 4Ps. And we have many OEM customers, more than 70 on the world, and I think, or I know that actually most of the users of our software do so by using a product from our OEM partners. So just a short introduction of ourselves, of Color Software, so that you know who's talking to you right now. And the rest of this, I guess, around 40 minutes, I will use to talk about PDF 2.0 and only briefly after that about a new standard part of PDFX, PDFX6. Okay, let's move on. ISO PDF 2.0, or in other words, ISO 32000-2, has been a tremendous amount of work at ISO. So it took almost 10 years, several meetings in order to produce this new standard part. It's almost 1,000 pages big, so it's a really large standard. And it is, for the first time, a true ISO document. So maybe most of you know that PDF, already with PDF 1.7, was given from Adobe to ISO, so to the International Standardization Organization, and since then it's owned by ISO. But the first instance of the standard, 32000-1, was more or less the same as PDF 1.2, so there were only smaller and minor differences. But this one is now a true ISO document using all the ISO language that is required for a true ISO standard. And it took long because it was a democratic ISO process, so all ISO processes are democratic with lots of votes and so on. And this was how the standard was developed, and Adobe was just one amongst others in the ISO committees. Maybe the downside of the whole thing is that for the first time, PDF 2.0 is not free. So whenever Adobe had developed a new version of the standard, they made it available always for free, and so was ISO 32000-1 because there was a special agreement between Adobe and ISO, but this ends with PDF 2.0, and this standard part is only available for purchase, and it can be purchased directly from ISO or via the national standardization bodies. In Germany, it's, for instance, DIN or whatever. So maybe that is just a price that we, the PDF community, have to pay, that the standard now is owned by ourselves. So what is in PDF 2.0? Just briefly, lots of new stuff. So it says in itself, in its own introduction, that it has 14 completely new features, 26 extended features, 7 major clauses, so really big parts of the standard have been completely rewritten, and also a few features are deprecated. This is the one side of the thing. The other side is many people, including myself, say, okay, but it's not a revolution. So there are no completely new USPs. So in the end, it remains to be PDF as we all know it. But there are many, many improvements, and this will be these will be the topic of the presentation today. Short summary at the beginning. What is important to know, ISO has already started to work on PDF 2.0 based standards. So there will be a new standard part for PDFX, for PDF-A, for PDF-E, for engineering, and for PDF-UA for universal accessibility. So since there is a new base standard, of course, also PDF-based ISO standards need to be further developed on this new foundation. So, and I think now the questions, the main questions for the ones who are related to the Ghent Workgroup is, okay, but what of this new standard is now relevant for prepress and print, and how and when should somebody who uses PDF in its own production prepare for the standard? So, and the first answer is actually all new features in PDF 2.0 are optional. What does that mean? That means PDF has always been open for extensions. So it has always been possible to just add so-called private data into PDF files. So any application could just add data in private keys, private meaning they are not part of the PDF specification, and no other application would be able to process them. So PDF may have, any PDF may use such extensions or private data, and that pretty much applies to all new features in PDF 2.0. So for a PDF1.x tool that is not prepared to process PDF 2.0 files, those tools will usually just ignore the new features. So there is no danger, usually there shouldn't be a danger in processing a PDF file that is a PDF 2.0 file, because all the features, all the other features will just work as they have been working before. So maybe, and from our first investigations, maybe in this regard, the most problematic feature is actually only the new entry in the PDF header. So each PDF header, in the header says to which standard version, to which PDF version the PDF complies to, and maybe an application that just looks into this header is not prepared to read it to there. And maybe that is from our investigation, could be the only reason why an application really refuses to process a PDF2O file. And that is just the first real practical recommendation here. If you want to double check your own workflows, you may just use any PDF2O files, meaning any PDF file that has a PDF2O in its header. And you, for instance, may derive such files from the PDF Association. They have made available a few example files, and you could just use them in order to check whether they go through your PDF processing tools. So, but of course, so having that said, PDF2O is not a real danger. On the other hand, if someone who sends you a PDF2O file, but would expect you to not just ignore the features that are in the PDF file, but to use them for production, that of course is also a danger. And so that means PDF2O may really become a problem when it's expected that these new features are being used. So, and then now we are at the question, what actually are these new features in PDF2O? And I have, as I've said, there are many, many new features, and from a pure PDF processing point of view, they are all optional. So I have picked 10 of these new features where I think, and this pretty much is in agreement with other experts, where we think these are the most important ones for prepress and print. And while walking through these 10 features, so we will have to do that in this webinar, I have put them, sorted them a little bit into groups. So, and these groups, I think, are developments in the publishing world that are important, and which are reflected in new PDF features. The one feature here is automation, industrialization. The second feature is color, and the third feature, or the third development, are digital documents. So let's go for automation, industrialization first. So what we see is smaller print runs, individualization of PDF pages, at the same time price pressure, and all that makes it important and crucial to automate PDF-based workflows. And then there is one feature in PDF2O that is new, and this is DPart metadata. And DPart stands for document parts, and actually this feature is not brand new, so it's not invented by PDF2O. It has been invented by PDF-VT, where VT stands for variable and transactional printing. And in this area, variable and transactional printing, example is invoice printing. There it's always important to, where you usually have not just thousands, but 10,000s of pages in a PDF file. There it's important to know which, I mean, an invoice might have, one invoice may have 1 page, the other 2 pages, and maybe the third one even 3 pages. So it's important to know where an invoice starts when processing the invoices, when printing them. It's important to know when comes the first page of the next invoice, and it's also important to know to which mail area that invoice goes, so that you are able to sort the invoices according to zip codes, for instance, in order to be able to print it out in that order and then send it to your mail service provider to get better service fees. And that was the reason, or the main reason, why in the first place DPart metadata was invented. And PDF2O now has taken this feature over, so it's all defined now in PDF2O as well. and there you can use this metadata, and then you can see here, I've forgotten to mention that, but all the DPart metadata is always related to pages. So other than the document metadata, this DPart metadata allows you to add metadata to pages in a PDF file. And then you can use it for several reasons. So I have mentioned the example for the mail areas. You could as well use it for compound documents, for instance, where you have the cover that may be printed on a 4-color printing press, while the inner parts, the inner pages of the document are going to a different printing machine because they are only black and white, and then they are only in finishing they are getting together. So up until now, you would usually split the document, or even would create 2 documents, one for the cover, one for the inner parts in the first place. Now you may just send one file to the print shop and take advantage of the metadata, so that the parts of the document then are automatically routed through to the right device. Then the good thing from automation and machine part of view is all this metadata, the DPart metadata, is in a tree structure in the PDF file, and that makes it easy to, you don't have to analyze every page in a PDF file to find out whether it has a certain type of metadata. You can just walk through the metadata tree and find those pages that are relevant for a processing device. So having that said, so this is a quite powerful means, although of course in the first place rather theoretical. However, there is one downside in PDF, or one limitation in PDF 2.0. PDF 2.0 does define the syntax for the whole thing, so it tells you how to enter the metadata, but it doesn't define any semantics. So it doesn't define neither standard fields nor standard values. So you can, so basically everybody is free to use a metadata property for, I don't know, indicating that a page is using 4C color in its own way. So, and that of course makes interoperability between devices difficult, at least. And that leads me to yet another topic, yet another ISO standard ISO is currently working on, and that is common document metadata. So this is a view much even more into the future. This new ISO standard will just close that hole and will define semantics for such metadata. These developments are coming from ZIP4, the developers and inventors of JDF and XJDF, and they will use pretty much the same fields, semantics that have been developed there, and take that over into PDF 2.0 or as an additional standard based on PDF 2.0, and that will allow really for interoperability between devices. Okay, but now let's go back to PDF 2.0. And while we are at metadata, there is the only example for a deprecation that I have in this presentation. The document information dictionary is deprecated. And that is basically what you see in Acrobat when you open document properties, all the metadata that you can see there, the author, the subject, the keyword, and so forth. This is all going away. So it may occur in a PDF 2.0 file, but then it's considered to be private data and shall be ignored. So PDF 2.0 even says so. It must not be used. And the only location and format of metadata that for document level metadata is what we also today have, the XMP, that is also today available via this additional metadata entry. So there is only a single place for document metadata, and that is this one, and the document information dictionary dies. So moving on, just one more thing in this automations section, the requirements array, and that is an array in the root object of a PDF file, and that tells or may tell, so it's optional, it may tell a processor which capabilities are required from a device in order to properly process the PDF file. This entry was already possible in PDF 1.7, so the entry itself is not invented by PDF 2.0, but in 1.7 there was only one possible entry here, and that was enable JavaScript. So this PDF would only work if the tool that processes it is able to process and interpret JavaScript. And PDF 2.0 has a total of 25 possible entries. So, and these all reflect features of PDF 2.0. So you may say this PDF file requires a processor to process rich media or attachments, or and so forth. So that's about automation, the features I wanted to mention in this section here. Let's now move on to color and automation of color. So, and I think this is the most frequently mentioned new feature of PDF 2.0 when it comes to printing. These are page-based output intents. Most of you might know output intents are, you can embed an output intent into PDF file. Usually you would embed an ICC profile together with it, and thereby you indicate for which printing process the PDF file has been prepared. So if it's prepared for offset, you would use PSO quoted, for instance, as an ICC profile. So, but we had the example, and we all expect that in the future we will have just a single PDF file as a compound object for parts of a PDF file, even though they may be processed and printed in different ways. So in that case, it doesn't make sense to just have a single output intent for the whole PDF file. And that is being addressed by this new feature. So in PDF 2.0, you can override the document level output intent by output intents on the page level. And then you can address the very same example that I've already mentioned, with the foresee cover and the black and white inner parts of a compound PDF file. So page-based output intents are important. Then this is a tiny new feature, black point compensation. Black point compensation is just a parameter of ICC-based color conversion. Yeah, it's technical, so it pretty much takes into account the black, the maximum black of the source color space and the destination color space. Results are different whether you use it or not, otherwise it wouldn't make sense to have it, so results are different, and in most cases they are just better if switched to on. And for that reason, so far nobody had cared about setting it up in a PDF file. However, in a few cases, the creator of a PDF file may want to switch black point compensation off for a certain image or whatever. And so far, it was not possible to indicate that in a PDF file. And that is being changed by this new entry, black point compensation entry. And a PDF creation program, just like InDesign, may become possible in the future. It may become possible in such tools in the future to indicate that for certain objects you want to disable black point compensation, and then a PDF 2.0 aware PDF processor will take that into account. So in my opinion, this just closes a gap. So the feature has been around all the time. It was just a gap or lack of a feature to not being able to have that in PDF file. Transparency. You all know, not a new feature in PDF 2.0. Although it has, the whole chapter has, major parts of it have been rewritten. But again, no new features here. It eliminates ambiguities, so that not everything have been clearly defined in PDF, how transparency has to be processed. This has been changed. And also, and that is for PDF processors, this is really an important thing. Not so much for users of PDF files, but for vendors and PDF vendors of PDF programs. This is important because now you can have a transparency group in a PDF file, even though you don't use transparency. And so far, it has not been clear whether this has any effect. And PDF 2.0 now clearly defines that it may have an effect. So basically, you can turn a device CM/K object into an ICC-based CM/K object by using a transparency group entry. So this is new in PDF 2.0. And then there are new few specifications changed for color burn and color dodge, but this just fixes a bug in the specification if you want, because it has been adjusted to match the most important implementations of PDF. So in fact, nothing changes. It's just changing the specification here. So summary to the transparency chapter is in real workflows and for processors, not much changes with the exception of this one thing here, and that is just something, it won't change the world for many PDF files, won't only change for in rare cases, but there it may become important in the future. So I think this is yet another quite powerful feature, but similar to DPart, it's only the foundation of something here, and that has to do with spot colors. So we all know spot colors are important for brand owners. Like I have a few logos here, and all of them are quite picky about how their spot colors, how their company colors are being printed. We all know that the variety of devices is increasing, so it is important to be able to reproduce a certain color, a certain company color, as consistent as possible across devices, whether it's on a packaging or a large format right beneath the packaging or an advertisement in the newspaper. And so far, only ICC-based color conversion was available in order to resolve that or to deal with that. And you could only use alternate colors as defined with each spot color in order to define what happens. For instance, if a spot color needs to be processed and printed on a device that doesn't have spot colors, like a digital printing machine. And with a new CXF entry in the output intent dictionary, it now becomes possible to enter spectral measurements into the PDF file. So you can measure the yellow here or the red here with a spectral densidometer and enter the data into the PDF file in the form of a CXF structure. And then you can use that data when processing the PDF file and adapt the color to the whatever printing machine or printing device you're using. The measurements can be there on blank. If measurements are there, there have been measurements for blank substrate. You can optionally have data for black pre-printed substrate. Yeah, then a processor may take advantage of this data. It has to be said, so though, that as of today, there is no definition about how this data should and may be used. So this is, and that is why I was saying this is a foundation for something. So the processing that can use this data is quite powerful. However, the algorithms of doing so are, as of today, proprietary. So there are vendors like the color experts from ColorLogic and also others who can use the data. So that there are solutions around that use the data, but that is not standard. So the standard itself doesn't say anything about how to use the data. Okay, and then there is also mixing hints. This is it has been there in older times already in PDF 1.x. The new thing is that this may now also show up in output-intent dictionaries, but that is by far not as powerful as CXF or spectral data might turn out to be in the future. One more to color, and that is related to screening. So this is not a new topic, but again, it makes a feature more complete in PDF. So there are new entries for arbitrary spot functions, where a spot function defines the shape of a screen and the origin of the halftone screen. So both can now be defined in PDF 2.0. Similar entries have been available already in PDF 1.0, so actually from the very beginning, but they were actually not complete, and now this is much better. So finally, we are, and this pretty much are already the features that I think are important in PDF 2.0 for prepress and print. So now to related areas where it is more about digital documents, so where the final destination of a PDF file is not to end as a printed sheet of whatever, paper for instance, but rather to final destination is to become a digital document. And then, maybe most of you know, there is something that is important in this kind of document, and that is structure. So basically, structure is invisible, but it tells you that, for instance, the structured PDF tagging here is a headline, as opposed to the content of the slide. And only if you have that information, then you can extract the text, for instance, from this slide accordingly. Then when you know Ghent Workgroup over here is just the header of the thing, then you have a headline, and then you have the actual content, and that is invisible structure or tagging. And that is just made more powerful by PDF 2.0. So the standard structure text set, there is a standard text set that says, so this is H1 for headline. This is more clean and more consistent, and it is extensible. It has been extensible all the time, but now you may use namespaces, and then you can easily mix two extensions with each other. So the one person or the one company may extend and the other, and even if they would use the same names for the tags, they would not conflict with each other because each company may use their own namespace. And then there are also pronunciation hints for text-to-speech, so for screen reading. So this is just on the experience that ISO has made, that companies have made with tagging so far. This has been significantly improved in PDF 2.0. And I think it's pretty much the last slide for the features, and there are a few things in the annotations area. So we have new annotations for projections that has to do with 3D models, and also there is support for a new ISO standard for 3D PRC, and it improves 3D viewing conditions. And then there are also new annotations for sound and movies. So basically, again, making the feature more powerful and replacing old actions and annotations in this area. Yeah, so this is just an overview. 10 new features in PDF 2.0, as I have said. So you, of course, I hope that you have now a better understanding about what is in PDF 2.0 and in what league these new features play and which way they may become important for your own workflows. As I have said, I want to round this up a little bit. So what and how to prepare for PDF 2.0 in what I perceive as a regular PDF workflow. So my recommendation would be, as of today, just start with whenever new tools are acquired, just ask vendors for their plans to support PDF 2.0. It's just, it would be a good thing to know whether and in which way and by when a vendor plans to prepare for it. And then I already mentioned the second bullet here. I would recommend to just use any PDF 2.0 file, for instance, the one for pdfa.org from the PDF Association, to just test any existing workflows, just to know where one stands. And then later on, one may, of course, want to check incoming PDF files for PDF 2.0 features. And that should not just be checking the version number and the header. It should really be about, you want to know whether a PDF file that you receive has, for instance, page level output intents, or whether it requires black point compensation to be turned on or off. And that should be pre-flighted. As next step may be to plan to convert PDF 2.0 files to PDF 1.7, but there I would say you have heard about all the features and and that they're all optional. So usually it's not possible to convert those features. So how can you convert page level metadata? So you can, the only thing that you can do, you can throw it away. Or how can you convert a black point compensation entry or page level output intents? It's simply impossible to convert that into something that would have the same meaning in PDF 1.7. So, and if somebody says to you, I can't convert that, I would really question that. So what you can do with DPart metadata, you can extract it, but usually no conversion really is possible. The only thing that you can do, you can throw it away. Anyway, so next step might be to convert whatever possible. So for instance, extract DPart metadata and use it in a certain way. And then, of course, finally, you would want to adjust your workflows. And then, I mean, it's pretty clear. Usually you'd start with the end of the whole thing. So you should start with having a PDF 2.0 aware Rip and DFE. So just to not create any or use any PDF 2.0 features beforehand, before the final output device or device is able to use it. The good thing about that is that all the major vendors for DFEs and RIPs have been in the committee at ISO, and as far as I know, most of the RIPs that are around are already prepared in their current versions for PDF 2.0. So next question now is, okay, by when would I have to be prepared for that? And then I say, okay, maybe a good point in time would be when PDF X6 becomes published by ISO, and that leads us naturally to the next topic, and that is rather short, so I promise I try to be in time, so I think it will just be a couple of minutes more. So what is new in PDF X6? So there are a lot of new features, but luckily, and that is the left-hand side here, we have covered them all. So nearly all of the new features in PDF X6 are coming from PDF 2.0. And pretty much what changes, for instance, for page level output intents, PDF X6 will define that and which way a page level output intent has to be used. And that's it. And then there is just one additional feature that is new, and that is annotations. Other than in every other PDFX standard part, annotations will, at least that is the current plan, be permitted in print area, but only if an appearance is defined. So only if the appearance that is inside of the PDF file complies to all the regulations and rules for page content. So the appearance pretty much has to be kind of a page appearance, and then a Ripl should be able to properly print it. And that will be allowed in PDF X6. So what else has to be said about PDF X6? So currently it's a working draft. That means it's still in its early stages at ISO. So publication cannot be expected for 2018. So it might be might be so that it will be published in 2019, but not before. And the structure of the whole thing is planned to be, there will be a major part, the normal part, the regular part, PDF X6, and that is usually designed for CMYK, similar to PDF X4. And then there will be a variant, a standard subpart for referenced output intent, so where the output intent is not embedded. And we already have that today, and that has a name PDF X4P. And then there will be PDF X6P as a successor of the same. And then there is yet another variant for n-channel color spaces, bigger color spaces, usually for CMYK, orange, green, violet, for instance, n-channel color spaces. And also we have that already today, and that has a name PDF X5N, and that will have a successor in PDF X6 with the name PDF X6N. And I guess that's it. Yeah, so let me just give you a brief summary. I think it was a lot of information, many features. I had to walk through to all the 10 new features. I tried to give a little bit of advice for what meaning they have. So what have we heard? PDF 2.0 has many new features, and then we may say they address trends or developments like additional data for compound print products, and also additional data for color automation. So I think both are going in the direction to make it easier and to drive automation even further in prepress and print production. Then there is extended color mapping possible that addresses the various the increasing number of devices that we have today, and specifically situations where spot colors cannot be printed as spot colors, but need to be reproduced in a process color space, and then other features address digital documents. I have only introduced you to a few of them, but I think these are the ones that are important for publishing in print. And then maybe the whole thing becomes really something that some companies, a concrete workflow needs to be able to master when PDF X6 comes out, and that may be the case in 2019. There were two questions, okay?
So one question was, many printer manufacturers use the Adobe print engine to rip PDF files. How far is Adobe to commit the support of the new PDF functions in their print engine? Or did they provide any roadmap about the future?
Yeah, I don't know exactly, so I wouldn't not be correct if I would say otherwise. On the other hand, they have been in the meetings all the time, and I'm pretty sure that I think that their current implementation supported, and if not, they will do so very soon. And same applies to other major vendors. So then, since we've mentioned Adobe here, so Global Graphics does the same.
The other one is, should it be relevant to mix this new PDF ISO standard with the current one? If, for example, two different productions with the same images are asked by two printers?
Yeah, I don't think that a PDF 1.7 file will process in a PDF 2.0 environment in the very same way as it would print in a current environment. So nothing would change for a PDF 1.x file in either of the devices. Of course, if you would use a PDF 2.0 file, let's say the black point compensation entry is present for one image, then that file would process differently in old equipment that is not able to take that entry into account compared to environments that can take that entry into account. Yeah, I think there is no clear answer to that question. The question is rather, is the equipment able to process the file and take all the features of PDF 2.0 into account? And as of today, this is not a real question because there are no devices or tools around that can really create PDF 2.0 files, but that will change.
Yeah, there was a comment, the latest, someone has heard as ATPE 5.0 will support PDF 2.0.
Okay, so that answers the question. So Adobe is either they have released or they will release pretty soon a version, and there is a version number. And again, so I just want to make sure that we have a complete picture here that applies as well to Global Graphics and others.
The last one, what version of Illustrator will produce a PDF X6 or a version 2.2?
Oh, wow, that I don't know. That I really don't know. I expect that Adobe is amongst the ones that are preparing for PDF 2.0, but I have no insight there.
Okay, there is a new question. Is there something about overprint preview? One of the greatest problems the person faces using PDF with clients and suppliers is about overprint. They all used to have overprint preview off in their Acrobat settings, and it's a pain to explain them how and why to turn it on.
Yeah, what can I say? So, and then in Reader, it's not even possible to turn it on. That is just something PDF 2.0 can't change. So if a vendor says, I'm in my viewer, the PDF 2.0 features are only properly taken into account if a certain thing has been enabled, for instance, overprint preview, then there is nothing that the standard could do. So I fully agree. It would be for the printing industry, it would be good to have overprint preview on by default, but I'm afraid PDF 2.0 doesn't say anything about that. I mean, there are tools around that do so. Yeah, and I know vendor who has ones, but yeah, it's so.
So a new question has just come up. Is ink order contained in PDF 2.0?
Yeah, ink order can actually be there in the mixing hints entries. So yes, you can enter that. Okay, so let me then, I haven't expressed my thanks to you for staying with us the whole time here. So thank you very much. Okay. Yeah, then I switch the mic off. Okay, thanks and goodbye.